This video is made as a presentation for the defense of the paper, A More Secure Nuclear Fuel Reprocessing Policy, written to satisfy one of the requirements for the PS 639 Cyber Wars and Cyber Deterrence course conducted the spring of 2014 for the Master of Science Cybersecurity curriculum provided by the Bellevue University. The current policy of the United States regarding the disposal of spent nuclear fuel is confused at best. Initially, spent nuclear fuel originating from commercial nuclear power plants was reprocessed at a facility located in West Valley, New York. However, since the Carter administration, reprocessing of spent nuclear fuel has ceased. The genesis of the decision by the Carter administration was the successful testing of a nuclear device by India. The primary ingredients for the nuclear device were born from the reprocessing of spent nuclear fuel. Following the policy to no longer reprocess spent nuclear fuel, the U.S. has opted for a series of policies that, at the time for each, appeared to be able to resolve the issue of high-level nuclear radioactive waste, at least on a temporary basis. At this time, spent nuclear fuel is being stored at 51 nuclear plants across the nation. This policy has increased the size of the nuclear vulnerability footprint at each of these sites, and in doing so, has also increased the risk from a nuclear accident. During the planning of the 9/11 attacks, the terrorists considered crashing the aircraft into a nuclear plant. What prevented them from doing so, however, was the relatively small size of the nuclear plant, the cumbersome navigability of the large commercial aircraft. These two things, coupled with the inability of the terrorists to gain the requisite skill set to accurately navigate the aircraft to its intended destination, caused the terrorists to target the World Trade Center. Another factor causing the increase in the risks associated with the storage of spent nuclear fuel is the technology used to cool and monitor the fuel. Although insufficient for energy generation, spent nuclear fuel generates heat for hundreds of years and is sufficient to cause the fuel to explode through a thermic reaction, much like lithium batteries. Such a reaction would spew millions of curies of radioactivity into the atmosphere. Two things prevent this at this time. All spent fuel not stored in spent fuel pools is stored in dry casks, which are designed for natural circulation, and the temperature of the fuel is monitored. The first issue resides with the ventilation system associated with the dry casks. These are known to become clogged with leaves in the fall and snow and ice in the winter. Nuclear workers are required to check these vents a minimum of twice daily. However, in actuality, this is not always accomplished. In one example, the operators were found to not be checking the vents because they were not visible from the vantage point at which they were to be inspected, i.e., they were too high from the ground to be visible. The other issue associated with the dry cask storage systems is that they rely on digital controls to monitor the temperatures. These thermal monitoring systems are not located in the control room as one would expect. Instead, they are located in a structure that is easily accessible by people who have access to the nuclear plant, any one of which could calibrate the instruments to appear to be reading within the acceptable range of the temperatures. This paper explores the policies of the United States and the world in general regarding nuclear energy and the disposal of high-level nuclear waste, all within the context of cybersecurity. Alternatives to the use of nuclear power for energy generation is discussed, along with alternatives to the imposition of cyber controls on nuclear generation. This paper conducts a strategic comparative analysis of the successes and failures of nation-states' adoption of worldwide acceptance of spent nuclear fuel, reprocessing, and cybersecurity standards associated with the commercial nuclear industry. Finally, the paper discusses the current U.S. policy for spent nuclear fuel reprocessing, the current status of proposed plans and actual implementation. The paper provides an argument as to why the current policy requires changing and how this change would benefit the commercial nuclear industry and the U.S. citizens by providing enhanced security of this extremely hazardous material. This concludes this defense.